avoidant attachment style in the bedroom. This is often referred to as avoidant dismissive. And it comes from this early childhood like detachment with the parent. And you can go to my YouTube channel and look up avoidant attachment and learn about its origins. But like, what do these folks look like in the bedroom? They tend to be kind of cold and aloof. They don't have as satisfying sex lives. They kind of use their lack of distance and to control their partners. They kind of use it as a way to have their partners on their feet, and they have more of the control. This can lead to porn addiction. It can also lead to less satisfying relationships. I highly recommend working with your therapist so that you can activate that attachment mechanism within yourself. And so, what are these folks? This one is really tough because avoidant attachment, we always know the anxious attachment, those people who don't feel good about themselves are constantly seeking attention. I'm so sorry, you guys. I got a plane flying over, but hopefully you'll forgive me for that. And no, I don't have any control over that. And so let's go back to that avoidant dismissive. It really does start from this parent who is kind of lacks emotion, or, toughen up, stop crying. You don't need to feel that way. It's almost like a lack of acknowledgement for their feelings. And so they just kind of learn to kind of deactivate and cut off their feelings because they're not going to be attended to. The parent has said that they're kind of inappropriate. And so I call it like a deactivation. They're not clued in to those feelings, so they just kind of cut them off. But it makes for a less passionate lover. I will say the anxious attachment people do have that going on for them, that they're going to be a little more, because they're trying to get their needs met, they're much more passionate. These folks, you kind of almost don't know where they stand. Did they enjoy the sex? You're not even sure oftentimes. And then afterwards, they're not real, there's not going to be that kind of afterglow, like, let's hug each other and talk about, wow, that was really great. You're not going to, I came, and so, yeah, it was good for me. You can see how the dismissive part, I'm here, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't good. I keep coming back, that sort of thing. Rather than saying, I really felt close to you, these folks are trying to avoid attachment. And so they'll do things, especially if they've got an anxious attached lover, they will withhold purposely so that they can keep that person off their game and gain the control within the relationship. And so they'll do things like that person will say, well, God, it doesn't, I can't tell if you're really enjoying this or if you even want to be with me. And they'll kind of dismiss it. God, it really feels like you need a lot of assurance. So they kind of will turn it back on the partner so that they, again, gain control, don't have to be intimate, don't have to reveal things about themselves. And so these folks can, they tend to not enjoy sex as much. And you can see them sort of vacillating between having sometimes quite a few partners that they're not attached to, or they're completely abstaining from sex at all. I don't really need it, don't really care. Or when they're engaged with someone, it's a detached, aloof sort of encounter. And yet these folks will engage in porn. It feels a little more comfortable for them because there's not intimacy involved. And so they can get on chat rooms. It doesn't become about them really knowing someone intimately. And so it can be really tough to be with this kind of person because they tend to be less engaged in a relationship. So let's say that you're sexually intimate with somebody who's avoidant dismissive, but you're wanting more from them, it will be really, really tough at times to get more because of that deactivation in terms of intimacy and closeness. But also they've kind of learned how to be detached. They've learned that if I show emotions, it's going to be met with, you don't need to do that. And so it often has them feeling pretty good about themselves. And yet we know that from the research, these folks can often feel lonely. They can have pretty positive self-esteem, but they often feel like no one knows them, or they haven't given people the opportunity to get to know them. So this is tough. I highly recommend that you work with a therapist, especially somebody who's really skilled in attachment, because you're going to go back to childhood. And I know you guys, feels like everything's about the childhood, but this really shows up in lots of different areas. I'm even going to talk about how it shows up in the workplace. So look for that video as well. But it really helps for these folks to be involved in relationships and using a therapist at the same time, so that you two can talk about ways to stimulate connection, to foster vulnerability, and even have their partner mirroring back to them, so that attachment activation happens. I'm Chantel Cohen, and I really hope that I really want to help you become more securely attached. I hope this helps. Please leave your comments. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, and I'll see you soon.